When my kid, who's profoundly gifted with a very high IQ, was in elementary school, little kid, 7, 8 years old, learned the entire periodic table. The class teacher got really upset with me because she said, I want your kid to be organized, a time management organization. She told me, I don't care if your child knows the periodic table at age 7. I'm more concerned with the organization scale. And she went on to punish the child by taking away those star points and things like that. I took the child out of school and we tried homeschooling for a while. But anyway, this is a public school teacher, and I'm not trying to diss the teacher here. Public school teachers are amazing. They serve as instructors, mentors, and role models who support the students' academic and personal growth. I am trying to diss the educational ecosystem, which teaches the public school teachers, gives them no time. They're so busy doing structured tasks, grading emails, preparing lessons that they don't have time to focus on other things. And this ecosystem says it's okay to stifle a child's creativity and intellect. No wonder there's a growing movement towards homeschooling. So, in today's world, we really need to be good at planning our time and figuring out the best order for our tasks. And this is why we start a 6, 7 year old with time management. That doesn't make sense from any level. It doesn't. But get this, ancient folks were dealing with the same kind of stuff, organizing their time, but they were just doing it in their unique ways. They often tied their daily routines to what was happening in nature and watched the stars to keep track of things. And children learned by doing, by helping out. Namaste, good morning. Welcome to Vedic Arts. My name is Monica Groover, and today we are talking about time management, alarm clock, outdated schooling, and reclaiming time for what matters the most, creativity and learning for the children. Now, do school teachers focus more on organization and time management than on creativity? Yep, they do. And it's killing our children's innovation. Again, I'm not trying to diss the school teachers. I respect all the public school teachers. Podcast is not about them, but about the ecosystem. And we'll talk a little bit about ancient Vedic education tips and tricks that can make homeschooling and even education in general quite amazing. I got the data, I got the ancient wisdom, and a rebellion roadmap to flip the script. If you're a teacher buried in rubrics, a parent fighting the system, a student dreaming bigger than multiple choice questions, then you might enjoy this podcast. All right, let's hit the facts. Picture this. You're in a classroom, the bell rings, 45 minutes, math drills, timed quizzes, homework deadlines, no detours. Sound familiar? According to the 2022 ED survey, that's 70 countries, folks, 72%, that's 7 out of 10 teachers spend more class time on structured tasks like schedules and assessment than on creative projects. And guess what? What's happening in the good old USA? Common Core has slashed arts funding by 30%. And many teachers, about 65% teachers say that's all 6.5 teachers out of 10 that their entire day goes in grading and emails and there's zero room for, hey kids, invent something wild. And Harvard studies show that 8 out of 10 K-12 lessons are just rigid blocks and there's no flexibility, no creativity. It's like ancient sundials, but without the poetry. Now, in Florida, we have the highest amount of homeschoolers in the entire US of A. Why are so many people and parents taking the kids from rigid schooling structure to homeschooling? Well, that's one of the reasons. Egyptians used stargazing for Nile floods. Greeks debated philosophy under the sun. Creativity was baked in. But modern schools, especially public schools, oh, we are factory mode. Bells dictate everything. Here's a quick table. Imagine me flashing this on screen. Ancient ed, natural cycles, storytelling myths, free debates, creativity sky high. Now, compare this to modern public schools. You have a fixed 180-day calendar, 90% structured homework, creativity. And children learn through creativity, not by rote memorization. Basically, we have traded symposia for spreadsheets. So, why? Let's break it down. Five brutal reasons. Number one, standardized testing. High stake exam reward rote over art. I'm from India, and rote was everything. In Hindi, we call it ratta marna. Rote became ratta in Hindi. So basically, students would just rote memorize everything in a textbook. And they would just regurgitate the same information they would learn in a textbook when they took an exam. And once the exam is finished, once they've taken a test, they forget about it. I know this happens in India, and I also know that happens in the US. A lot of students who are graduating out of high school do not have basic skills to go to college or hold down a job. The application of knowledge like problem solving and creating meaningful connections through concept, it is not very high in today's graduates. Let's talk about the second reason. The second reason is too much curriculum. It is absolutely ridiculous how much students have to cram. Both my kids have been profoundly gifted. Right now, my younger one is in middle school, skipped a grade. And in the name of accelerated learning, there's just ridiculous amount of crowded curriculum for gifted kids. 6 to 8 subjects a day, there's absolutely no breathing room for projects. And then the teachers are overworked. They have so much admin work. That's the third reason, admin overload. There's 50 plus extra hours, and not just for teachers but students too. And as they go in high school, there's so much paperwork, whether it's being done on paper itself or it's being done on their Chromebooks. Lately, what has happened with the advent of AI, and children are using AI for homework, at least in my kids school, they've just started everything is paper, no more Chromebooks. You have to do everything on paper. And the number four are class sizes, 25 to 40 kids. It is absolute chaos. Poor teacher. I feel bad for the teachers. And in order for the classroom to have some kind of, normalcy, they have to kind of rule with an iron fist. Then, of course, let's talk about politicians and policy BS. Politicians sitting in Washington do not need to be part of this. Politicians push job ready skills and test taking, and test taking is the only way they can get federal funding. And arts budgets have been slashed, so much funding has been slashed. So students graduate and they get schooled. Students do not learn, but they get schooled in public schools. And I'm not talking about I'm just talking generally. They may be efficient, they know how to take a test, but they're uninspired. We are breeding workers, not inventors. And then, you have people who come from different countries and they go to Silicon Valley and they become absolutely amazing. We're like, what? We are actually basically losing the next Elon or Da Vinci to TikTok scrolls. Don't get me started here. But here's the hope, teachers and parents are fighting back. Am I just going to sit here and complain about how bad the public school system is? Or am I going to offer some ancient wisdom? In Ayurveda, there are three things that make a life good. They're called Trayopastamba, or the three pillars of life. These are Ahara, Nidra, and Brahmacharya. Celibacy, good sleep, and good food. Very simple. I'm not going to touch the subject of celibacy right now. We're going to keep it aside and park it. Let's talk about sleep. School starts at an unreasonable time. Kids don't get enough sleep. And what happens when children don't get enough sleep? Ayurveda exposes the biggest scheduling sin. Why public schools force a 6 to 7 a.m. wake up? That makes zero biological sense. Let's unpack why this is a broken ecosystem and why it has a dominoes effect and how to fix it. Even science says getting up that early in the morning to go to school is madness. teen biology rebels against early morning. Their brains are wired to sleep later. Kids around 13 to 18 need 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but they're not going to go to bed at 10. They're going to bed between 10 and 2, which is the pitta time of the day, right? So they cannot get up at 6 a.m. and be their best selves. And this is a study from Harvard. And teachers themselves need 8 hours of sleep. And if they're not getting enough sleep, the teachers themselves are in a chronic sleep debt. They're in a zombie mode. It's this, the dominoes effect, getting up too early in the morning and starting the school early does not help academics, mental health, also teacher turnover. All right. So you may tell me a lot of high schools are now starting at 9 a.m. So good for them. What about younger kids? Let's talk about middle school. So, yeah, middle school from age, let's say between 10 and 13, they're preteens. They also need to sleep in late and they will also go to bed late. This is not good for their mental health. It'll lead to anxiety. It reduce their test score. So early in the morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., it is kapha time of the day. Let's look at some of the Vedic, Ayurvedic, and ancient tips for good peak flow for children and teachers. In the morning, early morning, when kids get up, as soon as they come to school, instead of having them as soon as they come in, go run or something, there should be a calm, meditative, maybe yoga, maybe some kind of meditation. Then there should be some mundane subjects to wake up their brain because they're kind of half asleep. Do not have an exam or test right early in the morning. Let them come back to life. So as we are moving towards 9 or 10 a.m., then that is pitta time. The brain is now awake. So math, science, debates, things for which you need your intellect at top capacity should be around 10, 11, 12, 1. Once they go to lunch, post lunch, you know, their pitta is going to drop, their kapha is going to be higher. So maybe more mundane topics, creative topics after that. And then there should be art projects or reflection and, calming down, getting ready. Screen time, you have to limit. Screen time has to be done. So let's summarize everything. Starting the day, both for the teachers and the children, with yoga, meditation, doing activities that let the brain wake up slowly because this is kapha time of the day, right? And then as you're moving towards 9 to 10 a.m., then you do the hard stuff for 2.5 hours. That's it. Post lunch, it is lighter vibes, creative periods, art, brainstorm, stuff like that. And then winding down. It isn't woo woo, it's a science backed by natural cycles. And for creativity, teachers can do micro creativity, like a 5 minute, micro creativity things if they don't have time and they're very, very busy. Now let's talk about nidra, sleep. With elementary school kids, or they have a very strict routine and they need that. It's bedtime, it's playtime, it's lunchtime, right? But as they're going to upper elementary and they're going to middle school, the routine changes because their brain changes. And now they're not as synced up, especially because of the screens and the modern lifestyle that we live in. The children are no longer synced in with the nature. So spending time with nature becomes very, very important if it means, spending 10 minutes outside, 20 minutes every hour, 2 hours. Also having the windows open and not having dark rooms in the house. And even something as simple as letting some cross ventilation, opening the windows and letting some air come in. Obviously, if it's too hot and too cold, that's not possible. From 6 p.m. is the winding down time. Unfortunately, kids get so much homework, sometimes you don't get time to wind down. But for every kid, it's different. Winding down. So if you are watching TV and you're expecting your kids to wind down, that's not going to happen. Parents have to wind down with your kids. You have to lead by example. If you start winding down, slowly, maybe, in the evening, whatever you guys do, you have, maybe the kid helps you with dinner, then you have dinner, then you do some post dinner activities, maybe you go for a walk. I don't know what you guys do, but that's important. It's part of dinacharya, winding down and making sure there are no screens. Again, no screens during the wind down. And maybe this is the time you or your children take a bath. A lot of people take baths at night. So just like, and it's harder to do that with slightly older children, but adults need to wind down with their kids. You cannot expect, oh, go to your room and we're going to go have fun and you're not excluded. Talk about diet or horror. I'm not going to touch the school lunches because school lunches do try to have everything. We are not really talking about the USDMI plate. We are talking about the ancient Vedic Ayurvedic tips, where the meal is aligned and synced to the dosha of the body and mind type, and also the six tastes for balanced energy, digestion, and growth. Ayurvedic meal plans view food as medicine. They should be warm, seasonal, and portioned to prevent common kid issues like, for example, hyperactivity, both in the brain and the body, is a vata trait. Sluggishness, either in the brain or the body, is a kapha trait. And irritability is a pitta trait. Let's talk about for younger kids. 6 to 10 a.m. should be an energizing breakfast, and 10 to 2 p.m. should be a cooling focused lunch. It should be heavy, but not so heavy that they're falling asleep after lunch. And between 2 to 6 p.m. should be a grounding snack, which calms them down. Of course, you can have the portion sizes, which should have half a plate of veggies and fruits and grains, one-fourth protein. But ideally, it should be seasonal and try to have it cooked, especially, for example, now is the fall season. Don't give kids salads, give soups right now. So you have to do seasonal. And add a bit of all the six tastes: sweet, sour, salty, astringent, pungent, dark green, leafy, umami, everything add in there. Very important to do that. Cooked and roasted veggies rather than in a salad. Whole grains, not just sandwiches, but maybe noodles, maybe rice, brown rice, for example, quinoa pilaf. Let's go to spices and herbs. Please get American kids used to spices and herbs. Salt is not a spice. There are more spices besides salt and pepper. So we should try and add these things: fresh cilantro, lime, and so on and so forth. In the morning, giving soaked almonds, raisins, these are very, very good, post the meditation yoga class in the morning with, fresh cucumber, tomato, a lentil soup or a protein soup. And then get kids used to having some herbal teas, not just milk. Of course, they need milk, but also give them some herbal teas and so on. Hope you enjoyed the episode. See you next time.